How much longer is this going to take? Ryan stood beside my bed in the emergency department, glanced at his phone, then at the clock on the wall. That was the first thing he asked after walking in. Not, how are you feeling? Not, what did the doctor say? Not even, are you still in pain? Just, how much longer? And 4 was taped to the back of my right hand. My stomach still cramped every few minutes, and my mouth tasted like metal from 3 hours of vomiting. Earlier that evening, I had gotten so sick in the restroom at work that I couldn't stand up without the room tilting. One of my coworkers drove me to a hospital in downtown Chicago, where the doctor said I had severe food poisoning and dehydration. I had called Ryan from the intake area. He was online with Jake and 2 other friends, halfway through a game. I'm almost done with this round, he had said. 20 minutes. He showed up 90 minutes later. His black jacket was unzipped, one wireless earbud was still in his ear, and his phone kept lighting up in his hand. He smelled faintly of beer and fried chicken. Apparently, once the game ended, they had ordered food too. The doctor said I can go when this bag is finished, as long as I don't throw up again, I said. Ryan looked at the 4 bag and frowned. So, what, another hour? Jake's still waiting for me. I stared at him. Across the aisle, an older woman was sitting up in another bed with an 4 in her arm. Her husband, who looked to be in his 60s, folded his coat behind her back and went to fill a paper cup with warm water. She told him to stop fussing and sit down. He complained that she never listened to him, but he kept adjusting her blanket anyway. Something about that tiny scene made the room go very quiet in my head. I remembered my father's gallbladder surgery 4 years earlier. Ryan had called me once during the 3 days I spent with my parents. Not to ask how the surgery had gone. He asked, "Do you know when you're coming back?" I'm out of clean work shirts. That memory pulled 2 others behind it. 3 years earlier, I had worked until 1 in the morning and asked Ryan to pick me up from an almost empty parking garage. He said he was already in bed. Later, I learned he had been at Jake's place gaming until sunrise. Last winter, when I had a fever so high I could barely keep my eyes open, he ordered cold medicine to the apartment. I remember feeling grateful until I saw the delivery note asking whether I wanted pizza too. None of those moments had seemed dramatic enough to justify a fight, much less an ending. So I kept finding the kindest explanation for each one and calling that patience. That night in the ER, for the first time, I saw it without the explanations. "Aaron." Ryan finally looked up from his phone. "Why are you staring at me like that?" I looked at him for another second. "We should break up." He blinked. "What?" I said, "We're done." He stared at me like I had started speaking another language. "Because I got here late?" He let out a short laugh. "Aaron, you're dehydrated. You feel like crap. You're emotional. We'll talk when you're better." I'm thinking very clearly. Come on. 7 years, and you're ending it because I was late to the hospital. It's not because of tonight. Then what is it? Tonight is just the first time I don't feel like making excuses for you anymore. His expression changed. Not hurt exactly. Annoyed. Like I had broken an agreement I had never consciously made, the agreement that I would always interpret him kindly. "Fine," he said. "You're sick. I'm not arguing with you here. Take a few days. Cool off. I'm not asking for a break. Call me when they discharge you." "I won't." He shoved his phone into his pocket. "Whatever." And then he left. 10 minutes later, a nurse came in to check my 4 and glanced at the empty chair beside me. "Did your boyfriend go move the car?" she asked. I looked down at the tape across my hand. He's not my boyfriend anymore. It was the first time I said it out loud. I expected the words to feel dramatic. They didn't. They felt quiet. Almost clinical. Like a diagnosis I had finally stopped arguing with. I got home at 1 in the morning. Ryan wasn't there yet. The television was paused on a game menu. Half a box of cold wings sat on the coffee table beside 3 empty beer cans. 2 days of cups and plates filled the sink. The laundry basket was overflowing. For 5 years, my body had learned what to do when I saw a room like that. Put my bag down. Tie my hair up. Load the dishwasher. Start the washing machine. Check whether we needed paper towels. Take something out of the freezer for dinner tomorrow. That night, I did none of it. I stood in the center of the living room and looked around as if I were visiting someone else's apartment. There was my grocery list on the refrigerator. There was the folder of Ryan's insurance documents on the side table, organized by year because he could never find them when he needed them. There was the suit I had reminded him 3 times to pick up from the dry cleaner. His mother Linda's birthday was circled on the kitchen calendar in blue ink. Beside the router, I had taped a note that said, "If the internet goes out, restart this first. Do not call customer service angry." I actually laughed when I saw that one. Not because it was funny. Because suddenly I understood the entire shape of my life. I thought we had been building a home together. In reality, I had been running one for 2 adults. I pulled a large suitcase down from the top shelf of the closet. I packed only what belonged to me: clothes, documents, my laptop, camera, chargers, a few books, the framed photograph of my parents I kept on my dresser. Ryan came home a little after 2. He stopped in the doorway when he saw the suitcase. For the first time that night, he looked genuinely unsettled. "You're serious?" "Yes." "Where are you going?" "Hotel tonight. Apartment hunting tomorrow." "Aaron, are you insane?" He came toward me, lowering his voice like the calmer he sounded, the more unreasonable I would become. "We have 7 years together. 5 years in this apartment. You're blowing all of that up because I got to the hospital late. Do you know what next week is?" I asked. He stared at me. "What?" "Your mother's birthday." "Of course I know that." "What date?" His mouth opened. Nothing came out. I nodded toward the kitchen. "When does the electric bill draft? When is your vehicle registration due? Which dry cleaner has your 2 blue shirts? What time is your dentist appointment next month?" He gave me a disbelieving look. "What does any of that have to do with us? They're all things in your life." So you don't know any of them. Because you're better at that stuff." There it was. Not shame. Not gratitude. A simple statement of how he thought the world worked. "You're better at that stuff. Therefore I should do it. Indefinitely. Without it counting as effort." "You act like I'm some deadbeat," he said. "I pay half the rent. I pay when we go out. I'm not asking you to support me. I never said you don't spend money." "Then what are you saying?" I zipped the suitcase. "I'm saying you stop seeing the things I do as things I do. Clean clothes appear. The refrigerator gets filled. Bills don't go overdue. Your mom gets a birthday gift. We don't run out of toilet paper. You never have to think about any of it because I think about it before you do." He rubbed a hand over his face. "So we're breaking up over chores now?" "No. I'm leaving because I'm tired of being 4th on the priority list in my own relationship." He stared at me. Then, strangely, he laughed. "Okay." He stepped back. "Go." I waited. "Stay in a hotel for a week. Get your dramatic little apartment. You'll calm down." I didn't answer. "Leave your key," he said after a moment. "Actually, no. Keep it. When you come back, I don't want you stuck outside in the middle of the night." I placed the key on the entry table. "I'm not coming back." He didn't argue. That was almost worse. His face said he simply did not believe me. And standing there, I realized his confidence might have been the biggest problem between us. He did not think he had to protect the relationship because he did not think I was capable of ending it. The next morning, I took half a day off work. I saw 3 apartments that afternoon. The first one smelled like cigarettes. The second had a bedroom window facing a brick wall. The third was beautiful but so far from the train that I knew I would hate it by February. On the 4th day, I signed a lease on a 1-bedroom place 15 minutes from my office by train. The kitchen was tiny. The bedroom barely fit a queen-size bed. The balcony was wide enough for exactly 1 chair if I turned it sideways. I loved it. Not because it was impressive. Because when I signed the lease, every line had only my name on it. Ryan showed up on moving day. Not really to help. More like he wanted to see how far I was willing to take the performance. He leaned against the doorway while the movers carried boxes past him. "How much is that place?" I told him. His eyebrows went up. "You're paying that much more every month just to prove a point?" "It's closer to work." Our place wasn't that far. It had you in it. His face hardened. "Do you have to talk to me like that?" I didn't answer. He watched a mover carry my desk toward the elevator. This is ridiculous, Aaron. Then it should be easy for you to let me go. That shut him up for a few seconds. When the last box was out, I left my key on the console table. You don't have to do that, he said. I do. What if you change your mind? I won't. He gave me that same look. The look that said, you think that now. My first week alone, Ryan sent me more than a dozen messages. How's the heat in that place? Is the laundry shared? I told you that building looked cheap. Jake's birthday is Saturday. Are you coming? It's going to be awkward if you don't. My mom wants to know if you're coming to dinner for her birthday. I ignored them. Then the messages changed. Day 3. What's the password for the electric account? Day 4. What street is the dry cleaner on? Day 5. Why did ComEd send me a past due notice? Didn't that pay automatically? Day 6. Where did you put my car insurance paperwork? I stared at those messages for a long time. There was my answer. The first absence he noticed was not my voice. It was not my laugh in the kitchen, or my side of the bed, or the way I always touched his shoulder when I passed behind his chair. He noticed the missing systems. The unpaid bill. The shirt he could not find. The document that did not appear in front of him when he needed it. On the 7th day, I blocked him. The first night in the new apartment was stranger than I expected. I had imagined freedom would feel triumphant. Maybe I would order champagne, sit on the floor surrounded by boxes, and feel like the woman at the end of a movie who had finally chosen herself. Instead, I ate crackers over the kitchen counter because I had forgotten to buy plates. The refrigerator hummed too loudly. The radiator clicked every few minutes. I could hear somebody upstairs walking from one end of their apartment to the other. At 11, I caught myself reaching for my phone to text Ryan and ask whether he had eaten. The habit was so automatic that my thumb had already opened our message thread before I remembered I had blocked him. I stared at the screen and felt grief for the first time. Not regret. Grief. There was a difference. I did not want the relationship back, but 7 years did not disappear just because I finally understood it had to end. There were still vacations in my camera roll. His sweatshirt was still mixed into one of my boxes by mistake. I still knew how he took his coffee and exactly which grocery store salsa he liked. For a few minutes, I sat on the floor beside an unopened box and cried. Then I did something that would have been insignificant to anyone else. I ordered dinner from a Thai restaurant Ryan had refused to try for years because he said he hated the smell of fish sauce. I ordered exactly what I wanted. No compromise appetizer. No plain noodles for him. No second order in case he complained mine was too spicy. When the food arrived, I ate it on the floor with a plastic fork and watched a documentary Ryan would have called boring. It was not a dramatic beginning. But it was mine. Over the next few days, I kept finding small pieces of my life that had been shaped around him. At the grocery store, I automatically reached for his favorite cereal before realizing I did not like it. I stood there with the box in my hand and laughed at myself. I bought strawberries instead. Ryan hated strawberries. For 5 years, I had bought them occasionally, watched half the container go bad because I was the only one eating them, then stopped buying them altogether. That evening, I washed a bowl full and ate them standing by the window. The strangest thing about leaving was not discovering that Ryan had controlled my life. He had never told me I could not buy strawberries. He had never forbidden Thai food or photography classes or drinks after work. It was subtler than that. I had become so practiced at anticipating his preferences that eventually I edited myself before he needed to ask. That was the part one had to unlearn. 2 weeks later, my mother called. So, what is actually going on with you and Ryan? My stomach tightened. He contacted you? Last night. He said you two had a terrible fight. He also said he bought a ring. I thought I had misheard her. A ring. He said he's going to propose. For a second, I just stood there in my new kitchen holding my phone. My mother hesitated. Aaron, I know you have your reasons. But 7 years is a long time. Maybe you should sit down with him once before you make something permanent. The strange thing was, I had once wanted that exact phone call. For years, I had wanted my mother to say, Ryan called us. He's serious. He's ready. I had talked to Ryan about marriage 3 separate times. The first was in our 4th year together, when we started talking about eventually buying a home. If we're going to make that kind of commitment, I had said, don't you think we should be clear about where this is going? He leaned back on the couch and said, why do we need a piece of paper to prove something that already works? The second time was after my best friend got engaged. Ryan rolled his eyes and said, I hate this thing where everyone hits 30 and starts following the same checklist. The third time was the previous Christmas. I asked where he pictured us in 2 or 3 years. He smiled and said, why are you suddenly so anxious? 30 isn't the end of the world. I had hated myself for feeling embarrassed afterward. Like wanting clarity made me needy. Now I had been gone for 3 weeks. Suddenly, he had a ring. Mom, I said, if he calls again, please tell him not to involve you. He sounded very serious. He didn't suddenly decide he wants to marry me. I looked out the window at the train moving between the buildings. He suddenly realized I'm capable of not marrying him. The next evening, I left work and saw Ryan waiting near the corner across from my office building. He wore the navy wool coat I had given him 2 Christmases earlier. In his hand was a small box. I stopped several feet away. What are you doing here? I know when you usually leave. That's not an answer. I just need 5 minutes. You shouldn't show up at my job. I'm not trying to cause a scene. Then don't. He looked tired. For once, there was no irritation in his face. Just panic that he was trying hard to control. Aaron, I need you to hear me. We've talked. Not about this. He opened the box. Inside was a diamond ring. For years, I had imagined that moment in ridiculous detail. A restaurant with dim lights. A trip somewhere warm. Christmas morning. The Riverwalk where we had our first date. At one point, I even had a private folder on my phone with screenshots of rings I liked. Now the real thing was 5 feet away from me. And my first thought was, I don't want it anymore. Okay, Ryan said, taking a breath. Let's get married. I stared at him. Not, will you marry me? Not, I want to spend my life with you. Just, okay, let's get married. Like he was finally agreeing to a request I had made too many times. I get it now, he continued. You wanted a real future. Fine. We can do a wedding next spring. We can start looking at houses. Both our names on the deed. Whatever neighborhood you want. Ryan. I'll cut back on gaming too. I'm serious. You still don't understand why I left. His voice stopped. I did want to marry you, I said. For a long time. But I didn't leave because you never proposed. And I'm not coming back because you finally did. His eyes moved across my face like he was searching for the version of me who used to soften when he looked scared. What do you want then? I want a partner who doesn't wait until I leave to decide I matter. His jaw tightened. I'm standing here with a ring. I'm offering you the thing you said you wanted. This isn't about a ring. Then what the hell is it about? It's about you only changing the offer because the old arrangement stopped working for you. His face went pale. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then I walked around him and went back into my building. He did not follow me. After that night, Ryan stopped coming near my apartment or office. But he started calling my parents. My parents lived in Madison, Wisconsin, a little more than 2 hours from Chicago by car. My mother had always liked Ryan. Not because she thought he was extraordinary. Because 7 years felt safe to her. She was from the generation that believed relationships became valuable partly because of how long you had already stayed in them. No one is perfect, she said during one of our calls. Long-term relationships get boring. People get careless. Maybe counseling would help. I did not argue with her. Not at first. Then one Sunday afternoon, my father called me directly. What time did he get to the hospital that night? I was quiet. Dad. What time? I told him. He asked, and you had been there alone? My coworker stayed until they admitted me. What did Ryan say when he got there? I closed my eyes. And for the first time, I told them everything without protecting him. My father's surgery. The empty parking garage. The fever. The ER. The fact that the first week after I left, most of Ryan's messages were about utility passwords, dry cleaning, insurance documents, and bills. There was a long silence. Then my father said, 7 years is a long time. My chest tightened. I knew that sentence. Everyone had been saying it. 7 years is a long time. 7 years is too much to throw away. 7 years means you should try harder. Then my father continued. That's exactly why you don't give him 7 more. I sat down. The time you already spent is gone, he said. It's not a debt you owe the future. My mother did not say anything for a few seconds. Then she said quietly, why didn't you tell us it was like that? Because none of it sounded dramatic enough on its own. I surprised myself with the answer. No cheating. No screaming. No one big terrible thing. Just years of feeling like I was carrying more and more, and being told it was normal. My father exhaled through his nose. Normal can still be bad. That conversation changed something in me. The weekend after that conversation with my parents, my mother called again. This time she did not mention Ryan. She asked whether I had curtains yet. I laughed. That's why you called? You sent me a picture. Those blinds look temporary. They are temporary. And, do you have a decent lock? My father called from somewhere in the background. Yes, Dad. A deadbolt. Yes. My mother lowered her voice. He has been researching apartment locks for 2 days. I can hear you, my father said. It was such an ordinary conversation that I almost cried after we hung up. For years, every call home had eventually curved toward the same question. How are you and Ryan? Are you two thinking about marriage? When are we seeing him next? Now my parents were simply asking about me. My mother mailed me a set of curtains I did not choose and claimed I had chosen months earlier. My father sent me a link to a toolkit and then, apparently deciding I could not be trusted to click it, shipped the toolkit too. I used it to hang my first framed photograph. It was crooked. I left it crooked for 3 days because there was no one in the apartment to tell me it bothered them. Then I fixed it because it bothered me. That distinction felt embarrassingly important. For weeks, I had been waiting for someone to tell me whether my reason was big enough. That was the habit Ryan and I had created together. I would be hurt. He would explain why the hurt did not qualify as serious. Then I would negotiate against myself until I felt embarrassed for having needs at all. I stopped doing that. By the 2nd month after the breakup, my life started settling into a rhythm that belonged only to me. I went back to the gym. I started eating at restaurants Ryan had always vetoed. Thai food on Fridays. Indian food after work. Sushi without hearing him complain that raw fish was pretentious. I signed up for a weekend photography class because I had owned a good camera for 6 years and mostly used it on vacations Ryan chose. But the biggest change was work. I was a senior strategy manager at Northline Creative, a branding consultancy. We were competing for the annual brand strategy account of a national food chain, and it was the first major pitch I had led since becoming a project lead. I had spent 3 weeks living inside that account. For most of my career, I had been the person senior leaders wanted in the room, but not always at the front of it. This time, my name was first on the deck. On Monday, my team and I rebuilt the opening because we realized the client's real problem was not awareness, but relevance. By Thursday, I had cut 6 slides, rehearsed the budget trade-offs until I no longer needed notes, and rebuilt our competitive map after the client sent new questions. Before the breakup, weeks like that always came with another layer of mental noise. Ryan would text at 6, "Are you still there?" At 7, "So should I just order something?" At 8, "You could have told me you were going to be this late." None of those messages sounded terrible on their own. That was the point. Together, they trained me to work with one eye on the clock and part of my attention already back at home, anticipating what another adult might need from me. Now, when I stayed late, I stayed late. When I left, I left. No guilt waiting in the elevator. No running list in my head. I had more energy than I realized I had been spending. The night before the presentation, I stayed at the office to do one final review. It was a little after 11 when I logged into our company cloud workspace. The final presentation was gone. At first, I assumed I had saved it in the wrong folder. I searched by file name. Nothing. I checked the trash. Empty. Then I opened the research folder. 3 key directories were missing. My hands went cold. Not because I thought the work was impossible to reconstruct. because those files did not disappear by accident. Someone had been inside my account. I called the after-hours IT number. 20 minutes later, the on-call technician called me back. Aaron, we found unusual activity. What device? There was a short pause. Then he read the device name. Ryan MacBook. I sat completely still. The old MacBook had originally been mine. I bought a new laptop the year before and left the old one at our apartment. Ryan sometimes used it for streaming or personal files. Years earlier, I had registered that device for remote access to our company workspace when I was working from home. When I moved out, I changed passwords, but in the chaos, I never realized that an authenticated session was still active on the old machine. IT had the audit trail. At 9:14 p.m., that registered device accessed my workspace. 3 folders were deleted. The trash was emptied. At 9:42, the session ended. Our security team immediately invalidated every active session connected to my account and preserved the access logs. I wrote an incident report for my supervisor and the information security lead. Legal got involved before midnight. The attorney on the call was very calm. Do not ask him to come in and explain. Do not let him near any company equipment. Do not negotiate about the data. We'll handle the access issue formally. I felt strangely embarrassed. I'm sorry, I said. That old device was mine. I should have. Stop. My supervisor cut me off. You made a security mistake with an old device. We will review that. But somebody else intentionally used access they were not authorized to use. Those are not the same thing. I nodded even though no one could see me. After the security team confirmed that a personal conversation would not interfere with preserving the technical evidence, I unblocked Ryan and called him once. He answered almost immediately. Aaron, were you home around 9 tonight? Silence. Why? Did you use my old MacBook? Another silence. I already knew. Then he said, very quickly, I wasn't trying to ruin your job. I closed my eyes. So it was you. Listen to me. You accessed my company account. I didn't know it was going to become this huge thing. You deleted client folders. I thought you had backups. His voice rose, the way it always did when he needed his intention to matter more than the result. I just wanted you to stop for a second. Since you left, all you do is work, go out, take classes, whatever. You act like nothing happened. Like 7 years meant nothing. So you deleted my work because I wasn't grieving correctly? That's not what I said. What did you think would happen? He went quiet. I thought maybe if work stopped being everything, you'd remember how we used to be. How did we used to be? The silence lasted so long that I could hear the hum of the conference room lights. Then he said it. You used to need me. There it was. Clearer than any apology he could have given me. He was not afraid that I was unhappy. He was afraid that I had discovered I could function without him. Ryan, I said, this is now a formal company security matter. His breathing changed. Aaron, don't do that. I'm not doing anything. You accessed a system you did not have permission to access. I said I'm sorry. Don't contact me. Don't contact my parents. Don't go to my apartment. Don't come to my office. Do not touch any account, device, or file connected to me again. I can come tomorrow and explain to your boss. No. I'll tell them it was a misunderstanding. No. So, what do you want from me? Nothing. That word came out more easily than I expected. I don't want anything from you anymore. I ended the call. Later that night, our legal department sent him a written notice instructing him to stop accessing company systems, preserve the relevant device and data, and stay away from our office while the incident was being handled. At 9 the next morning, I still had to present. IT recovered older versions of the files, but the final 2 days of edits were incomplete. I had a partial deck, printed notes, and my memory. The client team arrived at 9 sharp. Margaret Cole, their vice president of marketing, sat in the center of the conference table. She was one of those people who made everyone in a room sit straighter without ever raising her voice. We got through the first 15 minutes. Then someone asked, "Where's the regional test market visual from slide 17? I looked at the incomplete deck on the screen. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Then I turned off the projector. I'll walk you through it directly. My coworker beside me looked surprised. So did the client. I picked up a marker. I redrew the customer journey on the whiteboard. I wrote the numbers for 4 regions from memory. I rebuilt the brand architecture using 3 colors and a row of arrows. I explained what we had learned from the suburban test group, why the Midwest response differed from the Northeast, why the cheaper campaign concept would actually cost more over 18 months, and why the problem they thought was awareness was really relevance. The presentation lasted an hour and 40 minutes. For the first 20, I was terrified. Then something strange happened. I got calmer. Because once the slides were gone, all I had left was the part no one could delete. The work I actually knew. At the end, Margaret stood and shook my hand. She did not clap. She did not give me some movie speech about how brave I was. She just said, I don't know what happened to your deck today, but you know why your strategy works. That matters more than a polished presentation. 2 weeks later, we won the account. I did not get promoted the next morning. No one handed me a giant bonus. Life did not suddenly become a montage. But something did change. Before that pitch, I was the new project lead who had not yet proven she could carry a major client. Afterward, no one introduced me that way again. 3 months later, a recruiter called me. A consumer brand was hiring a director of brand strategy. I was not looking to leave Northline, so I almost declined. Then I asked the question. Who gave you my name? The recruiter laughed softly. Margaret Cole. I stood by the window in my office with the phone in my hand. For a long time, I did not move. Ryan had wanted to destabilize the one part of my life that was becoming fully mine. Instead, he had forced me to see that my ability was not stored in a file he could delete. After the security incident, Ryan was quiet for almost a month. I thought maybe it was finally over. Then my parents came to Chicago for a weekend. My mother wanted to see my apartment and bring me 2 boxes of things she insisted I had left at their house since college. They booked a hotel downtown. The afternoon they checked in, Linda called my mother. She said she and Ryan wanted to apologize properly. No pressure, she said. No arguing. Just a conversation between adults. My mother, who still felt guilty for having pushed me toward counseling earlier, agreed to meet them in the hotel lobby cafe. She gave Linda the location. The next morning, when I arrived, I knew immediately that it was not an apology meeting. Ryan was wearing a suit. Linda had 2 boxes of expensive chocolates and a bottle of wine beside her chair. On the coffee table was a glossy brochure for a wedding venue. I almost laughed. What is this? I asked. Linda stood quickly. Aaron, please. Sit down. I'm fine standing. We're all adults, she said. I know Ryan handled things terribly. I know he made serious mistakes. But a 7-year relationship should not be thrown away because of a few chaotic months. A few chaotic months? You know what I mean. No, I don't. He didn't cheat on you. He never hit you. He was selfish. He was immature. He did something incredibly stupid with your work files. I am not defending that. She said it exactly like someone defending it. But adults make mistakes, Aaron. Relationships recover from mistakes. My mother's face tightened. Linda, you told me this was an apology. It is. Linda looked at me again. Ryan is willing to go to couples counseling. He is willing to talk seriously about marriage. He is willing to look at homes with you. You should at least discuss those options before you slam the door on 7 years. I looked at Ryan. Is that what you want? He lowered his eyes for a second. I really do want to change. Then change. He looked up. But it has nothing to do with me. Linda's expression cooled. Aaron, are you doing this because your career is going well now? Because you think you don't have to give anyone a second chance? I said nothing. You're 31, she continued. If you still want marriage and children someday, starting over takes time. Mom, Ryan said quietly. She ignored him. I'm not saying you can't meet someone else. Of course you can. I'm saying be realistic. Dating apps are not full of perfect 30-something men with no baggage. Ryan knows you. He wants marriage now. He is willing to get counseling. He is trying to build a future with you. Are you really going to throw that away and start from zero? My father stood up. I lifted a hand before he could speak. Because suddenly, I was not angry at all. Everything felt simple. Linda, I said, you keep talking about whether I'll find a better man. She frowned. But I didn't leave Ryan because I'm waiting for another man to choose me. I looked at him. I left because I choose not to marry your son. Ryan went completely still. Linda opened her mouth. I continued. And if I never get married, that decision still stands. My father finally spoke. My daughter already gave this relationship 7 years. His voice was calm. She does not owe anyone an eighth. My mother moved to stand beside me. We are not discussing a wedding today. She looked directly at Linda. Or ever. The three of us walked out together. Outside the revolving doors, my mother grabbed my hand. I'm sorry. For what? For telling you to think about it again. Her eyes were shiny. I kept thinking 7 years was too much to lose. I thought that too. My father adjusted his coat. Classic sunk cost. My mother glared at him. Do not use investment terminology right now. I laughed. A real laugh. It was the first time since the breakup that hearing Ryan's name in my head did not tighten anything in my chest. I took the recruiter call seriously after that. The interview process for the director role was the first time I let myself talk about my work without minimizing it. In the first interview, the recruiter asked why I thought I was ready to lead a strategy function. My old instinct was to make the answer smaller. To say I had been lucky with strong teams. To make sure I did not sound arrogant. Instead, I told the truth. I know how to build a strategy from research, and I know how to defend it when the room changes. In the second round, the chief marketing officer gave me a case study with deliberately incomplete information. I asked for 10 minutes, covered a legal pad with questions, and told her which assumptions I would refuse to make. She smiled. Most candidates rush to solve it. Solving the wrong problem quickly is still solving the wrong problem. In the final interview, they asked about the most difficult client presentation I had ever given. I could have told them the whole story. I did not. I said only that a technical issue had left me without the final deck for a major pitch, and that I had presented the strategy directly from the underlying work. For the first time, Ryan did not belong in the story of that day. What he had done was part of the incident. What I had done was the reason I was in that interview. The interview process lasted 3 rounds. A month later, I accepted the director of brand strategy position. The salary was significantly higher, but that was not the part one remembered most from my first week. I had my own office. The wall behind my desk was blank. My new boss told me I could put up whatever I wanted. I went home, opened the box where I kept old photographs, and chose 3 prints I had taken myself. One was Lake Michigan in winter. One was my mother laughing at a farmer's market. One was an empty road in Iceland beneath a gray sky. I had taken that last photograph on a trip I booked entirely for myself. No one's gaming schedule. No one's fear of long flights. No one asking whether I could choose somewhere closer because it was easier. Just me wanting to go somewhere and going. My life became bigger in ways that would have sounded boring if I tried to explain them to the version of myself who was still with Ryan. I could decide on Friday at 4 that I wanted Indian food with coworkers. I could spend Saturday morning taking photographs and Sunday reading on my balcony. I could leave a mug in the sink overnight because I wanted to, not because I was cleaning up after someone else. I could buy strawberries without hearing that Ryan did not like them and somehow ending up with none in the refrigerator. Small freedoms kept surprising me. A year after the breakup, I made an offer on a small condo. Buying the condo took months longer than the sentence makes it sound. I looked at places with kitchens too dark, buildings with impossible assessments, bedrooms that could barely fit a bed, and one beautiful unit where the train sounded like it was passing through the living room every 7 minutes. I learned about inspection reports, reserve studies, closing costs, and the specific kind of panic that comes from wiring more money than you have ever moved in your life. My father wanted to attend the inspection. You live 2 hours away, I told him. That has never stopped traffic from existing. That sentence doesn't make sense. It will when you own property. He came anyway. My mother walked through the empty rooms and immediately started assigning imaginary furniture to walls. I reminded her 3 times that I had not closed yet. She ignored me. At one point, I stood alone in the little office nook while the inspector checked an outlet behind me. The afternoon light hit the floor in a rectangle. I pictured my camera on a shelf, my work bag by the door, a desk that no one would pile gaming equipment on. The image was so ordinary that I had to look away for a moment. For years, home had meant a future I was waiting for someone else to agree to. Now it was paperwork, a mortgage rate, an inspection, and a key I had earned on my own. It was not luxurious. It was actually smaller than the apartment Ryan and I had rented together. But it had good light, hardwood floors, a little office nook, and a view of the city between 2 taller buildings. When the closing was finished, the agent handed me the keys. I stood outside the door for a long time before putting one into the lock. 7 years earlier, when Ryan and I were both still figuring out our careers, I had once told him, I want us to have a place of our own in this city someday. I got it. Only the word us had become me. 2 months after I moved in, I worked late on a Friday. When I left the office, Ryan was standing across the street. I almost did not recognize him at first. He was thinner. His hair was shorter. He was not carrying a drink. He did not have the restless expression he used to get when he wanted a conversation to go his way. I stopped. He crossed the street, but stopped about 6 feet away. I'm not going to touch you, he said. And I'm not going to follow you. I just want to say a few things. I waited. I moved. Okay. I gave up the old apartment. I nodded. He smiled awkwardly. I know what day the trash goes out now. I looked at him. And I know when my insurance renews. And what happens if I miss a utility bill? I bought my mom's birthday gift myself this year. He glanced down at the sidewalk. I didn't know there were that many things involved in keeping a home running. I did not make fun of him. For the first time, I believed he was not performing an apology. I don't game as much either, he said. Not because of you. He gave a short, embarrassed laugh. I know how stupid it would sound if I said I changed for you. I just realized I built my whole life around the assumption that someone else would manage the parts one didn't want to think about. That's good, I said. He looked up at me. What if I really changed? Traffic moved behind us. A year earlier, that question might have broken something open in me. Now it did not. Then that will be good for the rest of your life. The hope in his face faded. But I'm not coming back. Because you don't believe me? No. I thought about it before answering. Because I don't want to go back to the version of myself who lived that life. He was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. Are you seeing someone? I smiled. No. He looked surprised. Then. But I'm not missing anything. This time, he stopped. He looked at me for another moment, then said, Take care of yourself. You too. We walked in opposite directions. When I got home, I kicked off my heels by the door and set my bag down. The kitchen sink was empty. There was yogurt in the refrigerator, strawberries, and a container of Thai food from the night before. The apartment was quiet. No game chat through a headset. No voice from another room asking where a charging cable was. No bill waiting for me to remember a deadline on behalf of another adult. I poured myself a glass of water and stood by the window looking out at Chicago. For years, I would have called that kind of quiet loneliness. Now I knew another word for it. Freedom. The next morning, sunlight came through the blinds earlier than I wanted. I reached for my phone. There was a message from one of my coworkers. Drinks Friday? For years, my first instinct would have been to check Ryan's plans before answering. Did he have a game that night? Was he expecting dinner? Did we already agree to see Jake? Would he be annoyed if I came home late? This time, I did not check anything. I typed one word. Absolutely. Then I got out of bed and opened the blinds.